This episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. We all love saving a few bucks, but it has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. Mint Mobile makes it easy to get unlimited talk, text, and data plans for $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. To get this new customer offer, go to mintmobile.com/TFS. That's mintmobile.com/TFS. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. For first 3-month plan only, speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, it's a bird again.
Again? When's the last time we did a bird?
It's probably other times.
The last time we did the crow.
The last time we did the crow, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but he's a bird.
He's a bird. It's the crow. We're talking about 2024's The Crow.
2024 is The Crow. We covered the original Crow years ago on the main podcast. If you're looking for OG Crow, it's around.
Yes,
we've done it.
So we've done the original Crow. You can find that if you search for that. So we have the original Crow. We also recently did the Crow Salvation.
We did the Crow Salvation, which
as
is
a Patreon exclusive,
which is lauded as the best of the Crow sequels.
That's what it says on the DVD casing for the Crow Salvation.
And you can't argue with the DVD. Honestly, it was the reason we covered it, because we were like, which Crow sequel should we do?
It says it on the DVD casing. That's law.
I'm not going to argue with the DVD case
that's law,
of one of the Crow sequels about being the best sequel to The Crow.
That's locked in.
It's locked
A random person said that once, and they quoted it on the cover. We talk about that over on the Patreon exclusive episode. That's up right now. It's really fun. So if you want to hear more Crow talk, head on over, check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/FromSuperheroes. That's patreon.com/FromSuperheroes. There's an exclusive episode there every month. But we're talking about 2014's The Crow, a new movie. It just
2024.
2024. This year's. 2024's The Crow. It's a new movie. It just came out in theaters. And as any time that we talk about a new movie or show, we like to give you a spoiler-free review in case you want to taste of the episode and figure out if it's worth your time and whatnot. And then once you hear the theme music, that's when we will enter the spoiler-filled section. So let's start with a spoiler-free review of 2024's The Crow. We'll start with the usual simple question. Diana, did you like it?
I am wildly relieved to say that this movie is absolutely fine, which is such a relief because the trailers looked real bad, you guys. I'm just going to say that. I'm just going to be real about it. The trailers didn't look good. And there was a review embargo until Friday night, which usually means your movie's really bad. So the fact that this movie was entirely watchable was a huge win for me. I think it's mostly forgettably fine. It has one really good third act fight scene, which the whole movie was clearly built around, of like, we're putting all of our time and energy into this giant, cool one fight scene. And then the rest of the time, it's just like, oh yeah, that's the Crow. And he's not like silly, but he's also not badass enough. And he's kind of like not badass on purpose, because Bill Skarsgård, I can tell, is doing this like plan of like, I'm building up how cool he is throughout the course of the movie, which I don't think was a good choice, but he made a choice to do this. So I will give him that. So I don't really fall for the love story. They're cute enough together, but they're not like epically in love. The torment isn't here. The sorrow isn't here for me that the Crow is supposed to imbue in you. But it's absolutely like fine and watchable. And you're like, oh yeah, this is a movie that is totally here, and I don't hate it. And that's just a relief after watching the best of the Crow sequels earlier in the month. So I'm going to give it a fine to maybe even good, because the third actor isn't bad at all. Andrew, did you like The Crow 2024?
I think that this is softly bad.
No, I'm not going to argue with
I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It is, I agree with you, for a review embargo that came out after, during opening weekend, after the film had been released to the public, which for those of you who don't know is just always a really bad sign. It basically means that the studio's like, every reviewer is going to absolutely hate this, and we don't want it to have such negative buzz that no one goes to see it. We'd rather pray that a couple people buy a ticket by accident, not knowing anything about it. So a real bad sign, and it was competent. I would say it was boring for a lot of it, but it was like a competent kind of boring. Like it was like watching like a PowerPoint presentation at work where it's like, yeah, this is all the bullet points we needed to get across, and it's not that exciting. But man, everyone showed up to work today and told me all the info I needed to know. It's a work PowerPoint.
This is absolutely the Crow PowerPoint.
This is the Crow PowerPoint.
No, I completely agree with that.
It's competent. It's fine. It's a little boring. It has one great action sequence. It has like a couple of redeeming factors, a couple of wild nonsense things, but for the most part, it's just kind of like just a low quality movie that is executed in a way that's competent.
I would completely agree. I might even say that this is now the best of the Crow sequels.
I actually am going to say that this is the best of the Crow sequels.
Easily the best of the Crow sequels.
The best of the Crow sequels.
It's not bad.
It's not good.
It's not good, but the fact that it has anything redeeming about it, that I'm like, it's absolutely watchable.
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave. I didn't check my watch, mostly because I knew going in that it was only an hour 45, which I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
That's how long it should be. So yeah, totally watchable movie of The Crow 2024, I'd say.
And can it be spoiled?
I mean, not if you've seen The Crow, not if you know. Although half of this movie, they act like you don't know what The Crow is, which I found insulting.
Mm-hmm.
But not really, not if you know anything about The Crow.
It's a man who dies that comes back because of the Crow.
So Andrew just spoiled it.
I just spoiled it. I'm just going to pull that Band-Aid right off. That's the premise of this.
This is the spoiler-free review,
I don't
Andrew.
care. It's a man who dies, and then there's a crow, and then he's been crowed. And then that's it. That's it. Don't fucking worry about it. See the movie or don't.
See the movie or don't. Don't rush out to see the movie.
Don't rush out to see it, but it's not a joke film.
No.
It's not Madam Web. You know what I mean? Like I was worried this was going to be a Madam Web or a Morbius. I thought it was going to be I thought this was going to be a joke movie.
I also thought it was going to be a joke movie because it is an inherently silly premise. Mm-hmm. Like it's a man who comes back, is brought back to life by a crow, and then is immortal, and like that's cool in its own ways, but also can be very silly, very over the top, very bad, as we've seen by the multitude of Crow sequels.
Does he have other skills or powers or any of the other interesting things that make heroes interesting? Nah, there's just a fucking crow. That's it. It's silly.
Honestly?
It could be silly.
The crow's not even there that much.
There's minimal crow.
There's minimal crow. There's like the man who is the crow, but in terms of like the bird, minimal. So that's a spoiler as well. Not enough crow.
You know what? We're just spoiling stuff now. So why don't we get in? Why don't we just keep that energy rolling and let's get into the spoiler-filled section. Let's talk more about 2024's The Crow. He's a crow.
He is.
He's a crow.
He's at least got a crow face.
Yeah. It's wild to be. I was gonna say he has the powers of a crow, but that's also not what it is. That's not what it is.
I mean,
he's brought back to life by a crow.
He's brought back to life by a crow, and crows in this universe can cross between life and death.
Yes.
And then he can too. But that's not a thing real crows can do, so it feels weird to say those are the powers of a crow.
Yeah.
It's not like he was like, I got feathers and I can fly and I'm really smart and I know how to do like water displacement. Crows are so smart.
They're very smart. They're very intelligent. It didn't make them smarter.
You should get so much smarter.
They're good as a group. They leave a lookout whenever they do anything that crows to let them know a predator's coming, which is like there's cool stuff you could do with crow powers. Mm-hmm. But instead he can't die. And crows are around. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is kind of always the crow. That's not specifically Crow 2024.
Yes.
This has always been true of the crow.
That's the permanent idea of the crow. It is a man who dies with unfinished business, and the crow brings him back, and then he cannot die, and he needs to finish the business, which is typically
like having
love
a job.
Revenge. It's kind of job. It's kind of
his PowerPoint wasn't done.
He needed to go back to his
you
PowerPoint.
You gotta finish the crow PowerPoint, or you can't die, sir.
Yeah, it's grunge John Wick. Like I don't know what to tell you there. Like it's just kind of a little. It's just a little grimy John Wick.
There is a griminess here.
There's a griminess to it, which I think the first thing that I want to like goof about, compliment, I don't know. I need help analyzing it.
I'll help you.
is that I want to talk about like the type of person who becomes the Crow over the multiple Crow films, starting with Brandon Lee, and now in this one we have Bill Skarsgård. And Bill Skarsgård is playing it basically as if Pete Davidson became the Crow.
Oh shit! He is if Pete Davidson became the Crow.
He's Pete Davidson becoming the Crow.
Oh no! Is that why half this movie doesn't work?
Is that like it's just this soft-spoken, tatted-up weird boy who just is wildly charismatic and attracted to by everyone in a room for reasons that no one can understand, who then dies and has to get revenge?
I would argue not that charismatic. A little bit of a loser nerd energy for me.
But Pete Davidson also has that. Like that's what I mean.
But he's got charisma on top of that. He manages to be loser nerd with charisma, and for here I'm just like, this is kind of a loser nerd. That's
Skarsgård doesn't quite nail the. If Pete Davidson played the role, it would be a little better actually. But Bill Skarsgård is doing a pretty good Pete Davidson impersonation, but he's not quite hitting it.
I am furious that you have made me want to see Pete Davidson's The Crow. This is a rude thing to do to me. To be like, maybe Pete Davidson should play
the Crow.
Not even joking.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that the Crow as a character through the generations of Crow that we've seen, through the 90s and the 2000s and now, there is like something time capsule-y about the Crow is that it always represents what that generation's idea of a trash man is. It's that generation's goth fuckboy, and that changes from year to year. Where like at one point in the 90s, you get Brandon Lee, you get kind of like a mosh pitter, like someone who's like, I've got built shoulders, I got a Henry Rollins energy, where I'm gentle, but I'm also a brick fuckhouse.
Yeah, like it's longer hair, it's
wrestler energy, it's not just because of the Sting parallel.
I was just about to say but there is a Sting parallel for a reason.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's 90s gothy Crow.
Yeah, it's this Henry Rollins wrestler energy is kind of 90s. And then like Ed Furlong played it at one point, and I'm like, that's actually a pretty good late 90s, early 2000s of the like shorter hair, grunge music, just a little smellier and a little less strong. And now I think like trash boy fuck boy is Pete Davidson type. Like it is a time capsule, each of these movies, of like what that archetype is for that exact year.
I can get behind that because original Crow, I would be like, you're right, mosh pit, but it's like also like more full goth. And this one isn't quite goth. He's just tattooed, which isn't necessarily goth.
Yeah.
They really seem to think like, if you're tattooed, you're tormented.
Yes.
So we're done.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, so it's just a different, it's a different representation for each generation.
Well, I guess I'm a 90s gal because I'm still sticking with original.
Oh, I agree. I want original, like, mosh pit, hard rock, like, trash guy. That's what I want.
And I also just, like, you know what? I know I've said this 2 Crow movies in a row. I just need these guys to feel sexier.
Yeah.
They just don't like when you're playing nerd Pete Davidson, even though as we've said, a lot of people are attracted to Pete Davidson.
a ton. Apparently most of the fucking world is waiting to.
I do feel like that's not exactly sex appeal. There's something about how you want to be with him.
Yeah.
But like it's not like you're like, ooh, sexy, moody, broody. Give me those bedroom eyes.
Yeah, you kind of want like dude from The Bear maybe in here, like that type of like,
maybe
he's a little mad, and should you leave him alone? Like
I don't understand him. He's complicated.
Something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have a fan casting in mind for a Crow.
Okay.
But I think Bill Skarsgård is an interesting choice.
He is an interesting choice.
He's made interesting choices, as you said, to go with the Pete Townsend of it all.
Yeah, to be Davidson of it all. Of like, he's playing it with like, he's doing a soft voice as well. Like, is his the American accent that he has chosen for in this? It slips out a couple times, but for the most part, he stays in it. And it's also a difficult version. Like that soft boy type of energy is like, it's a hard American accent for people to get. So
like
it's
soft
a challenge.
Soft trash boy is kind of like Jesse Pinkman in Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Is what he feels like for half the movie, but like not quite so like comedically extreme. But just to like, if Jesse, the season where Jesse's in love.
Yeah.
where he's
yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit calmer.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting.
But then he tries like the second half. Like I see what he was going for because the second half there's this point where the crow gets double crowed. I don't know. It's kind of like in Beast Wars when they got like Beast Warded again.
Everyone's talking about it.
What were those bodies called?
The transmorphs or whatever,
That
or
wasn't
the metal
transmorph.
morphs. It had a metal.
There was
transmetals.
But yeah,
Were they
something like that? But they got Beast Warded again.
Yeah.
They got transformed again. It kind of felt like that because he was already the crow, and they're like, "We'll make you more of the crow, and then you'll be badass." And then he was badass, and I was like, "Oh, you were building to it. I see what you were doing." And then like literally for just one line, he makes his like voice much lower and cooler.
Yeah.
But like it wasn't enough of a powerful hit. Like I felt like what he was going for was that one scene in Dune 2 where Timothée Chalamet suddenly was really powerful.
He uses the voice. Yeah.
Uses the voice.
Yeah.
But that isn't quite what happened here. But I recognize that's what he was going for.
I recognize that was the attempt, and I think that there is some sloppiness in the writing that kind of takes away from what he's attempting to achieve as a performer. To be like, well, what if we slow build and then I change my voice? Like he has made some decisions to the best of what is written here, where I'm like, I think the point in the movie where he becomes a second layer crow is a hat on a hat, where I'm like, this is stupid and idiotic, and I hate that this is here.
They were the Transmetal 2 bodies.
Transmetal 2,
Because you could be Transmetal, and then you could be Transmetal 2. I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to lose it.
Everyone was talking about it, so we had to get it out there. So when he reaches his Transmetal 2 form, as we all describe it, and for those of you who didn't see the film, the plot of The Crow, he dies. And then it's like, you can go back and you won't be able to die and go seek revenge. You're now the crow. And he does that for a bit. And then he falls like a little, like 3% out of love. And they're like, now you can't go back and be the crow. And he's like, what if I made a deal that I won't ever go to heaven? And they're like, okay, you're the crow again, but now your blood is black.
Now you're Transmetal 2.
Now you're Transmetal 2 is what they say to him in the film. And the reference that us all in the theater all got. And
yeah, like in Beast Wars. Yeah,
we all said that. You could hear people in the theater kind of muttering it to each other.
Yeah, you could hear the rating on IMDb going up.
Everyone's like, oh, just like in Beast Wars. And so that happens in the film. And I was just like, this is a hat on a hat, though. This is just a hat. I don't know why we're doing this.
Yeah. It really is.
He was already the crow.
He was already the crow. He was like not a badass. So like and I don't really like fumbling crow. I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Just make him a badass right away.
I don't
just
even
make
care.
him a badass right away.
I actually don't even need him to be able to fight right away. But the fact that he would just be like, ow, I fell out of a car. I accidentally shot a dude. I didn't mean to. This doesn't happen in a Transmetal form.
Not in Transmetal 2.
Well, he's Transmetal 1.
But so he hasn't gotten to Transmetal 2.
He's regular Transmetal right now. But yeah, I don't like fumbling idiot crow who's just like, how do I even find the people who killed her? Like, he doesn't know what he's doing. And I don't find, that's not what I want from the crow. From the crow, I want a super badass who can't die, who looks super sexy, and is just murdering fools.
And I think the fumbling kind of, Batman year one-ness of it all could work if it got into the inciting action a little bit sooner. But for a movie that's like, we're going to confidently take half of the movie to tell you a love story before really any of this kind of goes anywhere, it's like, if we started... Like, if we got to him being the crow by minute 15, then maybe we can have a long, like, what if he figures it out for a while? Like, that's a journey. But by this point in the movie, I'm not ready to start a new journey with this character. Like, this should be we're going in for the close of this journey now.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There is a structural problem where I actually don't mind that this movie opens with Shelley, the girlfriend, because it is nice for the girlfriend to get kind of more developed and a bit more agency before she's killed off, because you can't have a Crow movie without the girlfriend being killed off. Yep. I sound sarcastic, but you literally can't. That's the inciting incident. The girlfriend has to get fridged.
Yeah.
So that always has to happen. But introducing her first is kind of interesting to give her like more agency, more of a fleshed out character. But then I think the problem was that you introduced her first, but they weren't dating when this movie starts.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how epic. You've been dating for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I know you can have like a Romeo and Juliet kind of thing, but I don't think anyone's soul's getting sucked out of hell for a 2-week relationship. That's not enough.
Yeah. Although, like, I will say there is something that I think there's something cynical in me that kind of agrees with this, when like the weird level of like of of matter-of-factness that hell law is, that they're like, you need to have pure, without a doubt, unbridled love. And it's like, I've known her for 2 days. I don't know anything bad about her. And they're like, that's it. That's perfect love. And then the second he's like, he doesn't even stop loving her. He's like, oh, I found out she did something bad once, but I kind of forgive her. And they're like, that's it. That's not love. That's legally not love anymore. And I'm like, oh, okay. No one in a 2-year-long relationship can be in love then by hell and heaven definitions. Because literally a moment of even wavering that you forgive them or move past on and that you never blame them for and you never think is they're your fault and you will still die for them. A millisecond of wavering in any way is no longer love, according to the definition that hell and heaven have set out in this film.
If you turn around and make sure she's following you, she's dust.
Yeah, that's it. Done.
Yeah.
So like
hell loves that.
So
hell's a real gaslighter.
Yeah.
They'll be like, well, that's not love then.
That's not love.
And then he'll be like, I'll sell my soul to hell, but like they're still like, that's not love, but we'll take it.
Yeah,
It's
even
still
then
not
they're
love?
like, that's actually not good enough. Like
That's not you both can't live.
eternal damnation to give her a second chance isn't love, because at one point you cried for 3 minutes and thinking about stuff she's done. And that's not love anymore. Forever, that's not love, even through eternal damnation. And I'm like, fuck off.
Fuck off.
But also I'm like, well, then you would only ever get puppy love people. Puppy love is the only people you would ever get in this scenario.
I guess I get what you're saying for hell, like wanting to do that. I don't think the crow would do that. I don't think the crow, the mystical being who chooses if you get to come back for revenge, would be like, yeah, that 2-week love was real. The crow knows real love when it sees it.
Okay.
So I think the crow would be like, you got to be dating at least a year for me to pull your soul back.
Interesting. See, I don't know if the
The crow
crow
doesn't pull you back for flings.
I don't know if the crow makes the love decision.
The crow, who does that?
That's a great question. What is any of this? There's a fucking crow. What are we doing here?
Because there's also problems in the crow bringing him back, and this ties back into why I don't like fumbly crow, which is if the crow brings you back because an impossibly sad tragedy happens to you, and like your torment about it pulls you kind of out of hell yourself, kind of brings you back to life, and you can't rest. But in this movie, the crow brings him back, and then he's like, is Shelley dead for sure? And he's not even certain. He's like looking for her body. He's not even sure what happened. And I'm like, you are not suffering eternal torment if you're not even sure she's dead.
Yeah.
If you're still wandering around like, is her body around? Or
Yeah.
it's like looking for her in the apartment.
Yeah.
I'm like, you haven't suffered eternally, sir.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, he has not suffered eternally.
No,
in that
you have to
scenario.
come back as a super badass because you just suffered eternally.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with
These
that.
are my rules of the crow.
That you have to suffer eternally.
Yeah, and I think the crow itself agrees. The crow,
I think you have to like
the bird crow.
I think you have to agree to go like become the spirit of vengeance. Like you never get to rest. I think should be the thing with the crow.
I think that's what he did when he transmetal 2'd.
That was the deal then. That he's transmetal
then
to
he
it.
Ghost Ridered and he was like, I've sold my soul.
Okay.
Too many parallels now. I can't throw Ghost Rider in as well.
And now when Ghost Rider becomes a transmetal 2 in the crossover between
well, his bike has to get an upgrade and they're like, now you have a transmetal 2 bike.
and that becomes a whole thing. But a lot of this is very like Ash and Smote and Smite God type of references where it's like the girlfriend who is fridged for the motivation, Shelley. Her tragic backstory is that she once did a murder, and she did a murder because a dude who is an evil guy has sold his soul to the devil, and he has the ability to like whisper instructions to people and make them do whatever he wants. And he mind controlled her to kill someone. And then after they both die, the crow comes back and Bill Skarsgård's there and he's like, where's she? And then this random spiritual guy's like, no, she's full on in hell. Hell forever, eternal torture. And even later when he's like, but she didn't choose to do that. They're like, I know, fucking crazy, huh? Hell, what are you going to do about it? It's like, oh, okay, so all of you agree that these rules are kind of stupid, huh? And that they're like real old school, like word of the law. you cannot do a murder, even if you've been literally mind controlled by the devil.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how, well, not the devil, a human who's been given devilish powers, which is the loophole they've found. Actually feels like a thing that hell would fucking love.
Hell loves legal loopholes.
Hell is like your hands killed the person, even though the devil told you to do it and like corrupted your soul almost completely.
Yeah.
You still did it. It's very like...
There was a nugget of you to be corrupted.
Yeah. It's like, Bucky would go to hell for all the Winter Soldier shit he did.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But he wouldn't. Not in my world.
Yeah, I understand.
But in the Crow world, that sucks.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, in the Crow world, he would.
Cool.
But yeah, very like, if you kill yourself, you go to hell because that other girl just like stabs herself in the neck.
Yes.
So that's a very like suicide is a sin.
Yeah, they're
very
really going for that.
Old school Catholic hell.
Here's the one thing of that, and I am not saying that this is a sin. The heavy drug use. If you use drugs, use drugs. I'm not saying you should go to hell. But if we're playing it letter of the law and suicide sends people to hell because we're old legal style hell and heaven. It's like, all right, well, like I'm watching people just do meth in a nightclub and all of them are like, but it wasn't until you killed yourself that God was sad. And it's like, what? Like some of your rules are from like, if you touch yourself, you're going to hell level of Bible. And some of your rules are like modern day Catholic Church type of thing. And I'm like, you really got to pick and choose whether you're going for like old school, like is Gabriel coming down and talking to us or some modern shit. Cause they're flying a little fast and loose.
I guess maybe. I think only the sins were the stuff he made you do.
Oh, okay.
Like the real hell stuff. I don't think they were like, you go to hell for doing drugs.
Okay.
But maybe.
Maybe.
Knowing hell.
Yeah, they seem to be real litigious.
Hell would probably be like every time you took drugs, it was a suicide attempt, and now we get you.
Yeah, that 1,000% feels like
loophole you
what this version of hell would do.
So hard. It doesn't feel like heaven's fighting real hard for you. Because the crow's not even set from heaven. The crow's a purgatory guy.
Yeah.
The crow's a middle ground.
And he's doing the most of anybody.
Yeah, he's working here.
He is.
He's trying to get souls back.
Yeah, he's doing the best. One thing that I do want to kind of slam this movie on for like just a legitimate problem of like the writing is that it is always at odds with itself in a way where I'm just like, what are we doing? Like, who are these people? And everything is like, it doesn't want to make a decision a lot of the time, even around the fact that it's like, oh, Shelley is on the run from some bad people and she got this video and she bumps into the police and they catch her with drugs and now she's in a full-time care facility. And I'm like, okay, is this prison? Is this a mental health facility? Like the Crow feels like he's self-checked in at this as if this is a mental health facility. And if he's going to heaven, it's like he hasn't done any crime. But there's nothing about like this movie seems to really want to like ride that line of like it's a prison, but it's not a prison. Don't get bummed out. It's not like a prison, but it is a prison, but it's a mental health facility. But it's not like an old Dickensian mental health facility where they torture the patients, but it's not like that because there is still tension. But they are kind of neither of these people have jobs and they have no income. But don't worry, they still have a really nice apartment. They have a really nice place. She has a recording studio and then a second apartment as well from a famous art friend who's letting her use it. And the art friend also has just buckets of drugs and money sitting around. But because she's totally trustworthy, she's cool. This place isn't trashed, but she does do all the drugs. And they are doing stuff that costs money all the time, but no one has a job. But they're not stealing. But they're not vagrants or thieves.
They're not drug dealing, but they have a lot of drugs.
But they're not dealing it, but they do use it, but they never get out of hand, so don't worry about that. They are also very trustworthy friends, but also you can't predict what these people are going to do. They're on drugs, but they're trustworthy. And I'm like, okay, at some point, you've got to be kind of willing to make a decision about what any of these people or this world is.
Yeah, I can get behind that because it's very much a like the whole movie. It's like these two are walking the line of good and bad. But if you're telling me that they absolutely both deserve to go to heaven, then I'm like they should both be absolutely good people the whole time.
Yeah,
like good people who just happen to do drugs. It's like
sure.
Yeah, and we give our friends a place to stay or something, or we help these people out, or like I work at the drug rehabilitation center or something. Or
Yeah, yeah.
They have to be on the other side to be rooting for them.
Yeah.
If you want me to root for them, I can't the whole movie be like, was that legal or not? Or was that harmful to others or just themselves? Or like the whole movie, or just kind of like, I felt like I was in the good place counting points.
And
I was
yeah.
like, what's their score?
What's their score? And even beyond that, even
score
just
doing?
like, what's their legal status? Where I'm like, were you both arrested? Are you both prison escapees that are wanted?
It's definitely a drug rehabilitation center.
Okay, but she I think was arrested.
But they found
they
drugs on
escape.
her, and then you can go to a drug rehab instead of going to jail.
Yeah, but they don't normally put ankle bracelets
the
on you
ankle-
in a self-administered setting. They have to cut an ankle bracelet off and escape over barbed wire where there's like dogs barking as it chases them through the woods. And it's like,
But like,
okay.
there's also like trust exercises, and it doesn't feel very prison-y.
Yeah.
Like men and women are mixed together.
Yeah.
This place doesn't exist.
And then none of this does.
doesn't exist.
And then they go to like the penthouse of her friend, and she's like, "We have to lay low here a while." But then they like go out to nightclubs and go meet up with random friends and get tattoos
going to a
and
lake
party.
is a good idea.
A lake's not bad.
When they went to the lake, I was like, do lake stuff.
But it's like,
the devil guy's not going out to the lake.
are the police looking for you as well? That's just something.
That's just
That's just something. I don't know. The movie's at odds with itself, where it can't decide what is or isn't in terms of like character motivations, where they are, what type of people they are. It's like, are they dirtbags or not dirtbags?
No,
We
I
gotta make a
completely
decision.
agree. Because it's like she must be doing well or like be trustworthy because she's staying at this beautiful apartment that her friend is letting her stay at.
Yeah.
But then also, as soon as she hooks up with Eric, they do trash the place. They don't clean that place up. They cover it in champagne.
Yeah.
They steal her friend's clothes. they take the plastic off the couches, which was there for a reason.
Yeah, they steal their friend's drug stash and I think cash stash
There
as
was a
well.
cash
To like,
in there.
yeah. So
it might
it's
have
like,
been hers. She had that there, but like she didn't put a hole in the wall.
yeah, it's a stash that they had.
So it's a complicated mix of a relationship, which doesn't make me like fall in love with them and root for them and be like, oh no, they died. This beautiful love story. I'm just like, they're just kind of cute every now and then.
Yeah, I'm kind of okay with them.
Yeah, they're cute enough together.
They
But,
are cute
like,
enough together.
Crow wouldn't have brought this guy back.
No, I agree. At any point watching this, did you feel like we were watching the trailer for Joker 2? Because I was just watching there, like, we fell in love in a mental health facility, but we're kind of bad people.
Oh, I didn't feel that at all because like they're pretty good people.
Yeah.
I actually felt it near the end because I found his Crow makeup looked too jokery.
He looked very Joker.
The Crow makeup was too jokery in this one. So I didn't actually feel it in the beginning, but now that you point it out, I can see it.
Yeah. No, so I don't know. That's just a random thought.
Well, I would like to be a little positive.
Lay it on me.
The third act opera fight scene.
It really fucking rules.
It's actually really good.
It rules. Why he's murdering this many like military trained guards who I think are just the security of the opera house. It starts in a way where I'm like, what are we doing? But then by the second murder, I'm like, I guess we're doing this. Let's just do it. And rules.
I actually disagree. They made a very good job of making it clear that all these security guards worked for the bad guys. Because
Fair.
the lady in the booth is very much like, he's killed 2 of our men. He's killed 6 of our men. It's like, all right, they all work for the bad guys. If he just killed a guy in like an usher's uniform, I'd be like, no, the Crow, no. He
That's
just
bad.
works at the opera.
Yeah.
But I think they do a very good job of making it clear these guys all work for. But that doesn't necessarily make them evil. They're not they don't have devil powers.
They don't know. All they know is that a rich person was like, make sure we don't get murdered at the opera tonight.
Yeah.
And they get obliterated.
But they get obliterated and it looks really cool. So
it rules.
If you haven't seen it, it reminds me very much of the Mission Impossible 6 opera scene where it's like all
not as good.
Not as good. Oh, nothing's reaching the Mission Impossible. The fight is matched up with the opera that is happening, and the music is hitting as the actual blows are hitting, and like movements going on as movements happening on stage. It's pretty nicely timed with what's going on stage.
Yeah.
And also, it's fucking brutal.
It's brutal. It is nasty.
It is really sudden how quickly this movie becomes brutal.
And really just well filmed and edited as well. I will say, actually, we can kind of circle back to this in a minute, but I think that generally speaking, the entire movie looks really good. Like just the lighting, the sets, it's practical. I'm like, this this looks slick, which it looks slick in a way where I'm actually very surprised the trailers didn't rule, because all the trailers made it. I guess I'm going off on this now, but we'll go back to but all of the trailers made it look like shit. And watching this movie, I'm like, visually, some of this is stunning and really well done, and with great lighting and practical sets, and the opera scene. It's like a lot of extras and detail and care, and the writing is bland, and the performances are doing nothing. But it looks good. And the whole time watching it, I was like, this should edit down into an awesome 4-minute music video, which is what trailers are. So the fact that it wasn't the coolest trailer of the year means that whoever was editing, whoever was in their marketing, whoever edited the trailer, and some of the movie's editing as well, I'm like, you fucking blew it there, because a lot of this movie looks like it rules. And the stairwell fight at the opera is a case of that, where like it was edited really sharp, and some of the prior action editing wasn't, but like it looked cool. The fight sequences were great. Like the decisions were cool.
I agree. The marketing push of this movie made me think it had a budget that it could not live up to. And then you watch it and you're like, oh no, you're actually like, you're at an opera. You bought out an entire opera to like film these scenes. You have it full of like 200 extras.
Yeah.
You actually went to like a large mansion to do the final kill of the bad guy. Like nothing about this movie is cheap in the filming of it, which is very surprising. And like, and you're right, some of the shots are like really nice and look really good. And there is some weird editing. I think the scene with the mom is the weirdest one for me, which we can go back to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it should make a great trailer.
Yeah.
It should just make a moody, cool trailer. But
yeah.
Anyway, the fight scene.
Just killer.
Just absolutely killer. But it's like, it's weirdly brutal out of nowhere in a way that I guess I'm okay with, but I'm like, why didn't we kill guys brutally earlier? Because you weren't cool yet? You weren't transmetal 2, I guess?
Yeah, they wanted to build to that, I guess, a little bit.
Because, like, it made me question the rating of what happened. Like, have I been watching the movie wrong? Yeah, because he's, like, cutting guys' jaws off. He's been stabbed in the chest.
That was nasty.
And then he stabs a guy in the face with the knife in his chest that's poking out. It was just really cool and well-timed to the opera that they picked.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the opera was, I don't know what opera that is. I'm not an opera person, but like the opera was really cool as well. And like the costumes on that. And yeah, really well edited between the back and forth. It kept the action peppy, and cutting to the opera also like helped them hide the edits in a way that was artistic and stylized. And then like
it felt purposeful.
Absolutely. Good stunt work and choreography. A few moments where like I could see that it was Bill Skarsgård actually like doing this little like backspin with the sword on the ground, and like you could see that it was just carefully prepared and well crafted.
Yeah, I think I haven't felt this way since Atomic Blonde, which is a very mid movie that has a crazy one-shot long fight scene.
Oh, okay.
So every now and then a movie will be like, we're just going to be this one scene.
Weirdly, on an also Charlize note, I would say like Old Guard also kind of had one or two of those.
All of Old Guard rules.
Okay, fair.
I disagree.
No,
I like that whole movie.
But I think like had very particularly good action scenes in a couple moments.
Yeah. No, they did. There's like a church fight scene with Charlize that's very, very good.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this one in particular of a movie that would absolutely be a bad if not for this fight scene.
Yes.
The fight scene elevated it to fine to good.
Really good. Yeah, really good. And what is surprising about the, like, to kind of go back to the editing kind of being one of the low points of this movie, is that one of the prior fight scenes, which actually was a pretty cool concept, was like the Crow chasing after two of the random people who were involved in the death of his girlfriend. And it's like shooting at them, goes in through the front windshield of their car, and is now in their car and is doing like an inside of their car fight scene, kind of Deadpool-esque of the first Deadpool movie, of the highway sequence of this, like, how do you fight within this close quarters? But the editing was just kind of sloppy, where there's moments where it's like the Crow is in like the front passenger seat and he's trying to get to the back. And then the camera just cuts and he's in the back seat and he's just kind of like faking as if he had just kicked off from the front. But it's like there's like a few frames or maybe even as much as like 2 seconds missing that fill that gap. So it's just these like weird little kind of jumps where it's like, okay, and now I'm going to go from the front seat to the back. I move my head a couple centimeters. Now I'm in the back. And it's like, but that there wasn't enough movement. And this, and I think like the prior kind of apartment shooting action sequence as well had a few moments of that where it's just like, I feel like there's a few frames missing.
What is it called when the Texas switch, when you like switch out and it looks like the real actor did the end of a movie?
Nailed it.
Okay, it's a Texas switch. So like a stunt person does a thing and then the real actor switches out at the end to make it look like they did it. It felt like they got Skarsgård to do the end.
Yeah, or cowboy switch, but I think maybe Texas, but cowboy switch. Yeah.
They got to Skarsgård to do like the end bit. It's like, and land, but they didn't film the middle bit.
Yeah.
Where you do the actual pushback further into the car. You didn't do the bit where this happens. It's like, we got the end though.
Yeah, we got the end where it's like you pretend like it has happened.
Yeah, there's one weird edit that is just like haunting me of how weird it is and abrupt in a movie that's not that bad. And it's when he goes to visit Shelley's mom. And she's drinking her Clamato juice, and they're having a totally normal conversation. And then all of a sudden, the Clamato juice is on the floor, and she's just picking it up with her hands, and she's crying uncontrollably. And I'm like, how many lines were cut? Or did the crow do a crow thing to you?
Because we didn't see her drop it. It's her holding a thing, and then just like a close-up of glass already like starting to shatter on the ground. It's like, oh no, my... What?
And it's the kind of thing that if they did all the time, I'd be like, oh, this makes us question reality, or like the crow like did something to her mind to like make her really sad, which the crow can do. He can like affect your emotions. And like, so I was like, oh, but he didn't touch her and he didn't do anything. And then he just kind of leaves the room like, I'm going to go check out the other room.
This was awkward.
It was awkward is the way to describe that scene.
It was as if the crow, the character in that moment, could sense the editing was awkward.
It's like, oh, we didn't do that one
We
good.
didn't do that one right. We didn't get the footage right.
Because, like, in a lot of ways, it's a cool shot. Like, because the Clamato juice looks like blood, and she's, like, digging through it with her hands, and she's crying. And I'm like, actually, the shot's pretty good. But something about this edit didn't work at all.
Yeah.
And it ruined what I think might have been an actually kind of cool moment/scene.
Yeah. Another thing that ruined that scene for me as well is the butler. That really bothered me.
There was a butler, yeah. What bothered you about the butler?
She was at gunpoint. Like, it was like the crow, they're leaving the funeral. The crow is in her limo and he's got the gun and he's just like, we need to have a talk. And they're back at her apartment and a butler is serving her a Caesar or Bloody Mary in a pitcher. And he doesn't have the gun out at this point, but I'm like, this conversation started at gunpoint. And then it's the mom being like, she's the reason I died. Oh, my Caesar, let me clean it up with my cut hands. And I'm like, where's the butler? A man has a gun. She's cutting her hands clean. Why did this scene start with a visible butler dropping it off? If it just started 5 seconds later and she had a Caesar, Bloody Mary, or whatever the hell she's drinking, it's fine. I'm okay with the idea that she made herself a drink.
Absolutely not. She sold her soul to the devil for someone else to make her drinks, babe. She did not sell her soul to be making her own Caesars. She has to have a limo. She has to have a super nice apartment. A man brings her a Caesar, whether there's a gun in the room or not.
Yeah. Classic. Mm-hmm. But that man has no loyalty, and then he went and clocked out. She's like, I'm cutting my hands. And he's like, I'm not helping her anymore.
I am not. Or he might have re-entered the room when the crow left.
The crow left and was like, she needs, and the guy's like, I know.
Yeah, he saw her in the hall. He saw him in the hall and was like, could you?
It's awkward in there. The butler's like, it didn't just jump cut to her having smashed something, did it? And the crow's like, I don't know how she's doing it.
I don't know. She also might be the crow. I don't know. She's affecting the edit.
Something's weird about that. So I hated that a butler was there.
Wow.
It felt like a real simple...
What a small thing for you to hate.
It felt like a dumb writing thing to be like, well, she's rich and there's a butler there. And it's like, isn't this a hostage situation where she admits to murdering her daughter? It's like, yeah, but she's rich and a butler's there.
See, I didn't mind that there was no tension because it felt like the very traditional, like, I'm so rich and powerful that I don't even care that you have a gun, which does actually usually bother me and should bother me here because I'm like, bullets still kill you, even if you're rich and powerful, unless maybe you're like Danny Houston, the bad guy in this movie. I don't know if bullets kill him. I think maybe they do.
Yeah, they don't fully establish how the limits of his powers.
Yeah, he's immortal, but I don't know if he's shoot you in the head and you live immortal or just never die unless something violent happens to you immortal.
Tough one.
But yeah, I was okay with the chill attitude in the room of the woman who sold her soul.
That wasn't the worst. Wasn't the worst. I guess for fame or wealth or whatever. I liked Danny Houston. I mean, like he's doing what he does always in this role, which is the like I'm an untrustworthy, shit-eating rich guy, and it's just he is just good at this.
Is it weird that the only thing I remember him in is 40 Days of Nights, which is also just a very like over the top bad guy who'll just eat you?
He was also William Stryker in the X-Men movies.
Oh, he was Stryker in the prequel movie?
X2. No, the prequel movie is like a young guy. He was the one in X2.
I think he was Origins.
Was he Origins? Oh, he might have been Origins. You know what?
He was Origins Stryker.
When you said prequel movie, because there's a different actor who plays Stryker in Days of Future Past.
Yes, there is one different.
There's a real young guy.
There's so many Strykers.
Yes, you're right. Yeah,
fucking always striking.
But Danny Houston has that like Bern Gorman career where it's always just like we need someone who's like a bit of a devil Nazi, and it's like, well, he can play it. He can play it.
Just an untrustworthy scam.
Yeah, someone who just
No, I think
Neil McDonough and Bern Gorman were unavailable or also considered for this role. You know, we couldn't afford Mads Mikkelsen, and we looked at a couple of other people at a lower price bracket.
And we ended up with Danny Houston, who I actually think is really good here. I think he's fun. I think he manages this like very silly evil very well because like the rest of this movie is very grounded for The Crow. For a Crow movie, it's a very grounded movie, and he very smartly didn't go too over the top with how evil his character was, which would like make his scenes kind of weird and not match the rest of the tone. So he did a good job, and I actually like that the bad guy is actually someone with like powers and stuff.
I love that. I love it.
Because normally when the Crow's going on his killing spree, I'm like, well, yeah, he's gonna just kill you all.
I'm not worried about any of this.
You're humans, and he's immortal. But yeah, this guy actually having like a little bit of hell power. I was like, oh, I'm a little bit interested in this.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and the fact that you like Shelley did a bad thing and it wasn't her fault. So like, this twist I like of the villain.
I didn't mind that. If I would say that I would have liked it. I like how Danny Houston kind of plays this this villain as like just kind of like not flat in a bad way, but just kind of plays it straight to be like, it's me. I've made a deal with the devil. I got a shit-eating grin. I'm fucking here. And I'm a problem. And I like that he's playing it like that. But I think that too many people in this movie are playing it flat. And I would have liked to have seen a couple of bigger, bolder decisions somewhere in the cast. I'm not saying it's that, but if he's got 3 underlings and all of them are also like, I'm also flat and have some wealth, but I don't have devil powers. I'm like, well, then you're not interesting. You don't need to be here because we have someone who is flat with wealth who has devil powers. So I don't care that you're flat and have wealth. I don't care about the 3 layers of underlings that are all the same fucking person.
I even would have taken like a really memorable henchman. Because like the henchmen who killed Shelley also have to get murdered. Like they physically did the murder.
Yep.
So like we have to go after them. But they didn't even come up with like a henchman with a gimmick.
Yeah.
Like
a real slimy, like even the one who was like a cop wasn't like the slimy cop
he
or
was
like
just the exact same as all the rest of them, but he was a cop. Yeah, they didn't have like I'm the guy who just like I don't know, smells your wallets. Something.
That's
not.
They call me Johnny Wallet Smeller. I'm here to smell your wallets.
It's something memorable.
Yeah.
There's never been a wallet smeller henchman before.
Right.
Who takes your wallet, smells it real deeply before he kills you, and then probably keeps your wallet.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He's got a trunk full of wallets.
You know, when I think of like great like underlings to villains, it's like I Benji from The Mummy. I'm like, that is just like the slimy little cockroach character who's doing anything to survive. I'm like, that's a great kind of villain underling that has a lot of character and personality for a kind of like flat demigod big bad. And that works really well in contrast. And none of these people had that big bombastic one, you know? Yeah. But yeah, I think even like if the cop is someone like gets the phone call to be like, you need to take care of the witnesses and be subtle about it. And it's just like him in an evidence locker, cutting open a bag of cocaine, doing a snort, and just being like, yeah, I'm all about subtlety. I'm subtle as hell. Like, just to be like, oh, he's an idiot. He's lying all the time. This guy's not going to make it very far. Something bigger.
It's a little personality in these henchmen.
Yeah.
A little personality.
That could have been nice for me.
Now, I liked this movie, I think, more than we're talking about, but I actually want to end on a question that is baffling to me, and I do not understand these choices. So at the end of this movie, Shelley comes back to life in the past?
She's in the past.
She's in the past. Is everyone still dead? Because they died in the future.
I'm assuming they are dead. They've all.
But how does time work now?
Here is, and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm making some wild logic leaps along this journey.
I didn't think you had the secret answers of what this script was going for.
Here's the logic leaps I'm making.
Hit me with your logic leaps.
We have heaven and hell. They're real.
We got those.
They're real.
Purgatory,
they exist.
heaven, hell.
Purgatory,
real.
heaven, hell are 100% absolutely real. They can hold your soul. They can release your soul, and they can change time. So, the Crow has killed all these bad people and sent them to hell, who has not agreed to release their soul. Mm-hmm. But the deal in purgatory is going to get her out and back into the past. So I think the people that the Crow killed in this past are walking down the street and all drop dead instantly because their soul was never sent back, even though the timeline was rewinded. So I think that's what's going on. I don't like that. None of the movie happened is the other alternative.
Well, that means everyone's alive that he killed.
Yes.
See, that can't be right. They'd just kill Shelley again. They would just kill Shelley again. That would imply that the movie cares at all what we think about what's going on with Shelley after the end of this movie. I care about her a little bit.
I care about her a little, but I think that is one interpretation I would think of the ending, that I could just be like, all of this movie was just the vision of a man as he died.
Oh, a vision.
None of this actually happened. There is no heaven, hell, or purgatory. This was just some weird shit he saw as his neurons fired off as he was being suffocated. Aww. And then she was actually resurrected by a paramedic. Mm-mm.
So as he was dying, he pictured himself as not a very cool crow. And then he was like, what if I transmetal tooed?
And he got better as a crow. But then he died.
And then he died again.
But she did get resurrected. Possibly. Or
you have
a bunch of people just dropped dead because their souls were not released from hell.
I don't want to be negative to you because you're working real hard. And I don't like any of these. Okay. But the fact that you came up with 3 interpretations right off the top is so laudable.
I like 4 dozen heart attacks within the exact same second in this city or mysterious deaths, and the coroner in the city just being like, what? All of them, the exact same second, all just dropped dead The
Crow would do that.
The Crow would do that. Or
I feel like
the spirits behind the Crow.
Well, no, I feel like every single person the Crow killed, a Crow would show up as Shelley comes back to life and be like, swoop, and just take your soul away.
Yep.
And swoop, and take that soul away.
Take that soul away. Yeah.
That could work.
That could work. Also, it's really funny to imagine the idea of like 2 dozen security guards who are like, by the way, sweetie, this Friday I got work. I'm supposed to do something at the opera, and then drop dead. Immediately drops dead because 1 week from now in an alternate timeline future, the Crow killed them for protecting a bad person.
Somebody's security business just went under.
All of them dropped dead instantly.
Every employee died?
In the exact second?
What? No, I didn't do anything to my employees.
What was that? The Crow.
But the Crow didn't exist now.
The Crow doesn't exist
anymore.
anymore.
The Crow doesn't exist.
So that's all.
So I have a lot of, my personal theory, you've thrown it a lot. I don't even like my personal theory, but I'll just say it. Shelley woke up in a different timeline and those people don't exist anymore.
Okay.
Because I can't live in a timeline where they're just going to kill her again. That's silly. But also the way I thought this movie was going to end was not that she comes back to life, but that she goes to heaven.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I'd like that more because apparently if I do any sins, I'm going to hell. So I'm like, can I just go to heaven right now? That would be...
Just send me right... Don't give me a chance to blow it.
I don't want a chance to blow it. And I can't kill myself once I get to earth because that's a sin. So if you could heaven me immediately, would love that.
Yep. Fourth idea that happened is that they weren't smothered. It was a drug overdose hallucination.
Oh, no one's after her.
No one's after her at all. Well, I'm not even. Well, maybe someone's after her, but that final scene where the moment where they both die because they have a bag over their head, that didn't happen. Because when the paramedics wake them up, there is no bag or sign of forced entry, but there is a needle next to her head. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it's like, were they on drugs? Did he die of a drug overdose?
Because in the alternate timeline, they like framed her for doing drugs. Is how she died.
Yeah.
Like in the original timeline.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, was the needle a real needle or the one that they left to frame her?
This movie isn't enough about doing drugs for me to think that's what that ending's about.
You're right. I told you I'm making some wild efforts.
I'm just like, I'm working it out. I'm like, maybe we can get to the real answer, but I don't think we will.
I don't think
But these are great options.
These are great options, but I think that one of the real answers could be whatever we want it to be, because we're allowed to change something about this movie.
Oh, shit. What a segue.
Let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this? If you could change anything.
I don't know how many years we've been doing this podcast, but that's the smoothest segue we've ever had. And I
frankly thought it was choppy as hell.
I want to bask in it.
Okay.
Oh, what's great about this podcast is that we can change something.
I'm glad I've made you happy in this
I'm very happy. But you can also talk about Patreon and reviews now if you want.
Yeah, I mean, sure, steal the thunder of what I was about to say.
I'm basking in your previous thunder.
Oh, okay. You're still in that.
The thunder of moments ago.
I was looking at the future thunder, which is the fact that if you want to support this podcast, you can do so for free, by rate, reviewing, and subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, or wherever you get your podcasts. By leaving a simple rating and review, it helps the algorithm recommend us to new listeners, so it's how new listeners find us. And also, when people come across our podcast, they do check out those reviews, and that has a huge effect as to whether or not people actually listen and give us a shot. So it's a free way to help us grow and expand and keep succeeding. And if you also want to support us monetarily and get cool bonuses for it, you can check us out over on Patreon, which is a monthly subscription service. You can subscribe at whatever is in your budget and get lots of cool bonuses for doing so.
Yes, you can get at the $3 level, you'll get this podcast early and ad-free. That's very fun for when we do new releases like this one. You can get a review a few days early. If you listen to this on Monday, you could have listened to it on Friday. And you would have known whether to go to the theater because the reviews were embargoed. We would have been all you had.
We're beating the embargo.
We're beating the embargo for our Patreon listeners.
Which we can do by buying a public ticket, which is wild, messed up.
Because we also get screeners for other things, but we're also part of the public if we choose to.
Yeah, we didn't get a screener for this, so we didn't sign an embargo. We bought a ticket and we did the goddamn work.
So for $3, you can be part of us rebelling against the embargo man.
And for the $10 option, you also get an exclusive bonus episode. You get all the other benefits, and you get an exclusive bonus episode of this podcast every single month. This month, we did The Crow Salvation, the best of the Crow sequels. Until now. Until today, I think. Until today. I would put this new one as the best of the, but a very fun episode about the Crow Salvation. That's available right now. And if you sign up at the $10 level, you also get immediate access to our full back catalog of episodes as well. So check that out. There's lots of great options. It's all over at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
My biggest changes are they are already dating when this movie happens. I will not support a 2-week love story. I think you can really like a person in 2 weeks. I don't think you have an eternal, endless love at that point, especially if it's not like a soulmate scenario. It doesn't seem to be. So they're already dating when this happens. They're like deep in a relationship, and then this weird thing goes on with she kills a guy, and she's like, oh no. And that messes them up real bad, but they're still in love. And this all happens. So just to get a deeper connection between the two, I always need a little bit more there. I do want the love story to feel epic. And then my biggest change is the Crow's just cool the whole time. He's immediately transmetal too. I don't like transmetal Crow. I don't like a Crow that's kind of a loser unless that's the whole point of your movie. Unless you're going to Pete Davidson me the entire time. And that's the shtick of this Crow movie. But the Crow should always be cool. He should always be super badass. He should always be sexy. He should be brooding. I just want that for the entire movie, and I didn't get that, and that's my biggest change is that he's always cool. Andrew, what would you change about The Crow 2024?
I love that. I had that as a quick one for me to be like, there's no second layer of resurrection. There's no second Crow layer, and he is just the cool Crow right away. So that's definitely I'm 1,000% on board with that. I completely agree with that. I have 2 changes. Two changes. One, there's no purgatory space. I hated the purgatory space. The guy in the purgatory space, going to the purgatory space, when the crow gets there and there's a random dude there who's like, there used to be stories that a crow would take you to the afterlife. And it's like, used to be stories. Like, we're in the crow space. Say it like it's fact. What the fuck are we doing?
The crow brought you here. Also, I totally support this because the line about the crow bringing a soul back is so badass and cool, and I don't think he sold it in any way, shape, or form.
In no way was it sold.
He ruined that cool line.
In no way was it sold.
Total failure of a line delivery.
Yeah. So I think at the beginning, when as a kid, when he's watching like the horse die, and there's crows around, there should be a person who comes up and tells him that to comfort him.
I love that. It also explains why the fucking horse was there.
Yeah. That it would give meaning to that flashback to be like, a thing you loved, don't worry, its soul will be taken by the crows. And then you get to deliver the line, and then that seeds it in later. And then we skip the whole medium place because nothing fucking... nothing fucking goes on here.
No.
Nothing goes on in the medium place.
You don't need to kill Danny Houston there.
Yeah.
It's cool a little bit when like the devil grabs him and pulls him under or whatever, but you can do that in the real world.
You can do that in the real world. And that brings me to my other change is that the two of them should not have died in that apartment. They should have been killed on that bridge.
That would make more sense.
On that bridge where she talks about, and when she talks about, if I went over, would you dive in with me? And it should be that they've killed her and tossed her over, and he's been severely hurt and jumps in after her and dies in the water.
That's real nice.
And I think that he does go in after her. And that's the thing. And then at the end of the movie, when she wakes up being resuscitated, she's been dragged out of the river. It is a paramedic on the side of the river, and then he's leaving flowers at her grave because when he has flowers, he brings it there on the bridge, which is where she brought it up, but it's not where she died, so it doesn't make any sense. And now there's just an extra location. They should have been killed at the bridge where they talk about what they would do if they died and what they would leave here if one of them died here that night.
I love that change. Great change. Makes the parallels better, makes the story structure tighter.
Yeah.
No notes.
It also makes the whole like vision of them drowning make more sense.
Water is used a lot for something that isn't how they died in any way.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
Except for like when they're at the lake, and they really like the lake.
Yeah.
Water's nice then.
Yeah. So they like it then. So that's my big thing. No medium place, and they die on the bridge.
Love it. Love this change. And he's a cool crow the whole time.
Oh, just a real cool cue.
Just a transmetal 2 crow.
Transmetal 2, as we've always talked about the whole time. Well, that's going to do it for this week for the 2024 remake of The Crow. We will be back next week on the podcast. Next week, we're going to be talking about the original Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice 1.
In Beetlejuice 1 in anticipation of the sequel, Beetlejuice. So we'll be talking about that next week on the podcast. In the meantime, if you want to reach out to us, you can find me online on most places at Ivimey, Ivimey. You
can find me at Pics of Diana on Threads and Twitter and Instagram. And where am I? I'm Words of Diana on Tumblr.
There it is. And you can find both of us most places at From Superheroes. And you can check out all the podcasts and everything we create over at FromSuperheroes.com. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.